on the other hand, you can have a functional problem, is the muscles are too tight, you're asymmetrical, so then it becomes either do something like you're doing, like deep soft tissue massage to balance the muscles out, get them loose, get them relaxed, or you change your training. I don't do any training, so you can't change my training. Mine is just life. So deep massage like you're doing gets rid of those asymmetries and stresses in my body, which I put into it unbeknowingly in my normal life. But if you're seriously training, then you can change that training to balance it out. But that's not an osteopathic problem. That's to do with your coach or your training, or it's a physiotherapy type of problem, because that's more to do with your local tissues rather than to do with your central nervous system and your spine.
Okay.
And that's what an osteopath does, is looks and say, is it something deeper to the spine that is causing this peripheral problem? If there's nothing there, then it's not an osteopathic problem. And then, I would sort of say, well, I think this is this is a training problem. You should look at your training, or you look at your kit, or your shoes, or get some massage on this. You're all too tight, or whatever. But it's not an osteopathic problem. It's some other therapist or coach's problem, because it's to do with the peripheral muscles rather than something to do central with the central nervous system.
Okay, and is that why it's so whatever particular sport you do, or if you don't do a particular sport and it's just work and life and stuff, is that why it's good to stress the system in different ways rather than just going and running and that's all that you do?
Yeah, because
that's why it's good to do some weights and do some mobility work and do a variety of different stresses on the body.
Yeah, because running is a specific activity which uses certain muscle groups and not other ones.
Right.
It's also, in terms of muscles, you've got loading and you've got ability to sustain load. So, like weights, builds you up a certain amount of muscle strength, and some kind of exercise regime gives you stretching and repetition, so you can actually maintain that loading on a repeated way. So there are two different things there. The other thing, which is probably more forgotten about, and things like, the archetypal way is yoga, really.
Oh, yeah.
Is actual stretching.
Right.
Is all-round stretching, and what yoga has spent the last couple of thousand years of doing is finding ways of stretching all the muscles, tendons and ligaments in the body in various postures to stretch everything. So,
and how does yoga have that in terms of, instead of the kind of, which is kind of going out of vogue now, the kind of static deep stretches, how does yoga have that sort of heads up on it being more functional and more specific and so on and so on?
Well, I suppose my argument would be it's less specific.
Right.
The problem with modern methods and modern things, they all gear up towards something. Even Pilates is gearing up, saying, oh right, your core strength is weak.
Right.
So it's sort of saying something specifically, and I'm going to give you exercises and training to in a more specific way, whereas yoga is not geared up to. It's not. You don't do yoga because you're a runner, or because you play a musical instrument, or because you lift weights. You do it to give overall stretching to your body.
So it's a chain, it's a link.
It's non-specific. That's the whole point of it. So to my mind, the sort of the modern thing is everybody's trying to achieve something. So if you're a runner, you're trying to achieve something in a race. You're a footballer or whatever, you're doing tennis player. And all sports achievement is at a cost.
Right, because it's just...
You're not going to do any sport without doing a cost. Right. People think, oh, it's healthy and it's whatever. Basically, they're using their body in a specific way for which they'll make a payment.
Right.
And that payment is in other parts of their body or adaptation of their body to what they're doing. And certain other things like yoga, you shouldn't necessarily do yoga because you go running. You do yoga as a general
to keep the whole system.
to keep the whole system
Yeah.
running. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not, I don't do yoga. I have done yoga in the past, but I'm not sort of salesperson for yoga. It's just you can do Tai Chi. But, so most modern sports are body group specific, whereas the old systems like Tai Chi and yoga are not body specific. So they're useless if you want to be, say, what's this going to do to my training to run this marathon? You'd say, well, specifically, nothing of use whatsoever.
But in the long term,
but in the long term,
the whole system.
In the long term of trying to maintain a all-round, elastic, adaptable body.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they're for.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. So it's
as well as, I suppose.
And I think a lot of the kind of new trendy strength and conditioning sort of style exercises, like whether it's a good morning exercise, is basically based on an old yoga move, or you can almost trace it back, because it's rather than just stretching the hamstrings, you're stretching the hamstrings under movement, and you're trying to link other muscle groups in with that movement.
Yeah. So what people do is generally steal bits of old systems.
Yeah.
And then make it specifically to a sport or a training method, because that's how you sell a product. When you come down to it, is if you're a coach or a training method or a sports trainer, you are selling a method.
Yeah.
So you're taking bits of systems which were not designed for that, and saying, well, this fits in with what I want to do, and I'll use that bit. And as such, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as the person realises they're taking bits of something and using it specifically on their body in a asymmetrical and one-pointed way. And the body's not like that. The body is, it's multifunctional, multi-directional.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you say, right, I'm going to run, you're doing something slightly, well, just generally running is a thing the body can do, obviously. But if you do it as to run marathons or to do races, to train up to do that, you're saying, I'm not having a natural all-round body. I am using a bit of it to work better for this kind of thing.
So so the kind of...
So there's a payment, that's what I'm saying.
Yes. Fantastic. Right, that's good. That's cool. We'll do that. We'll put that in.